Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:04. Let's see, we have Paul Varga here, Angie DeSanto, Jesse Burnham, Garth Bean, Butch Simpson, myself, and Valerie, our recording secretary, are here. I think Catherine's going to join us relatively soon.
I am here.
Oh, okay. Hi, Catherine. Good. I didn't see you there. Fantastic. Let's see. Seating of alternates. Paul, I think I'll seat you for Judy.
Okay.
And Butch, I'm gonna seat you for John Kopek.
Okay.
John is at a wake tonight, and Judy has an exam that sounds brutal. She's in her 4th hour of exam taking, which whatever it is, I'm glad I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I don't want to.
So Butch, you're seated for John Kopek.
Okay.
Communications. I did get a communication from the audit firm with a contract. I will sign that and send it off to them. Just so that you know, I did read through the contract. It's pretty much the same as we've had every year. The other thing under communications that I wanted to let you know, if you don't know yet, the Board of Education has agreed to hire a new superintendent, who I think we all feel fairly confident is a really good choice. So he will be starting July 1st. And right after Jim Longo retires at the end of this month. And it's my understanding that the two of them have worked very well together in transition. So there's been a few things that have come up that they've kind of had to collaborate on a little bit. And my understanding is that's gone very, very smoothly. The other thing I want to let you know, which is maybe a little more relevant for us right at the moment, is they also, through Karen, the backup business manager a year ago or so, was able to track down a business manager with a lot of credentials, very familiar with the system, the Ivy Tyler system that we've working with, and they have engaged with her. She had a lot of options to go to any number of different places, and she ended up landing with the Ashford School, which is real kudos to them. This woman's comes very highly touted. So they at their last meeting approved her, and it's my understanding she will start in the 2nd week of July, which will be really good because that's sort of when the audit stuff really starts kicking off and so forth. So she'll have obviously a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm very encouraged by that. So those are the only communications that I have at the moment. Next agenda item, approved minutes of the regular meeting Thursday, May 27th, 2021. I read them over and I see nothing to modify unless you guys do. So I'll need a motion to accept
So
those.
moved.
Okay, so Andy, do I have a second?
I was
Jesse
looking.
Burnham, second.
Okay, thank you. All right, and I was there, Paul was there, Judy was there, Angie was there, and Jesse was there, so we have enough. Were there any changes that anybody or clarifications? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstain. So Butch,
I
you're gonna,
abstain.
yep, Butch is gonna abstain, and let me just double check here. Me, Paul, Angie, Jesse. Okay. Okay, so Garth is abstaining too. So, so Valerie, Butch, and Garth
Yep.
will abstain.
Okay.
Next agenda item for the overwhelming amount of public. Are there any public comments? Okay.
Paul can't do anything because he's on the board.
I know, so I'll just save it for later on. That's all.
All right, good. New business, selectmen's update, and there's a couple things that the selectmen are going to talk about. So the selectmen's update will, among other things, include the American CARES Act. And Catherine, if you could give us an update as to, you know, what kind of monies and what we know at this point with those monies.
Okay, and it's actually the American Rescue Plan.
Okay.
The CARES money was a different thing, so I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
I'll make that correction. Yep.
No problem. Also, well, okay, so I can't recall if I've already talked with your board about this, but we anticipate receiving overall basically 1.2 million. Okay, it's 1,259,269.72. Go figure. I've been learning a lot about dealing with the government, so it's interesting. We'll get it in what is called 2 tranches. Okay, tranches are TRANCHE, and that's French for slices, something like that. I learned something new every day in this job. Okay, and those tranches, the first one is in 2021. We're anticipating that coming in anytime now. And that the first one will be for 629,634.85. And then the second one will come about a year from now. That'll be 629,634.87.
Phew.
Because you gotta get the 72 cents.
Thank you. And don't fault me for being precise here. Okay, so we have to have a plan for the money, for use of the money by the end of 2024. We have to expend the money or lose it by the end of 2026. When I say end, it's December 31st.
So Catherine, can you just explain that at least at this point, we think what we're doing with this is we're going to put it into its own little fund and kind of contemplate where we can really go.
Exactly. What Cheryl has been doing, and I don't know if you know, she had a death in her family, so Cheryl's not available with us tonight. She has already set up a fund or is in the process of setting up a fund for this money. I'm looking at the rules about using the money. That it absolutely must be COVID related. I'll just tell you that. And the areas that I can clarify, kind of speak to, if you will, a little bit, was in looking at that. I just saw something today that I haven't had a chance to read through. I had reached out to Martin Heft, who's the he's OPM's chief fiscal, whatever, okay? I reached out to him because I wanted to see what the filing form is. We start reporting on the money, the municipalities do, in October of this year. So I wanted to see what the report is that we have to submit about use of the money, so that in a sense, it's almost like double checking to make sure that whatever we're considering fits what the rules are. So if you can see what the end thing is that you have to fill out with questions, that'll kind of help us double check what we're looking at. So, but something, and he told me Connecticut doesn't have that, it's the feds. And I got something today that I haven't had a chance to look at that can give me some insights on that. It isn't the form, but it is some of the questions that will be on the form.
Catherine, can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
So one of the things, the reason Catherine's bringing that up, and I think it's something that we as a board and we as a town need to be very, very cognizant of, is we need to be really careful with this money. Because if we go ahead and use it for something,
Right.
and then suddenly it's not COVID related, according to somebody, then we're on the hook for that money from somewhere.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure, and I think this is where Catherine's caution about really being sure where this money can be spent is prudent, because we don't want to spend it on something and then suddenly find out, oh, well, you can't spend it on that. And so that's why this is important.
And while this might seem like a big bucket of money, once you start looking at some of the things that you're allowed to spend it on, it doesn't feel quite as big. For example, broadband infrastructure. Our town, if I understand correctly, I thought, and maybe Paul, you can speak to this being in the fire department. I thought that most people in town had internet proper, not DSL, which is through your phone line, but true internet through a company like Charter or wherever. And it's my understanding that it's not just a few roads in town or a few areas, but it's a lot of the town doesn't have broadband. Is that your understanding in terms of communications in the fire department and trying to work through stuff?
So I can tell you that a lot of the problem isn't that it's not on the road or not available, because I just actually got broadband back in March, I guess it was, at my house.
Yep.
Because prior to the whole COVID thing, the cable Charter in particular, in this case, didn't want to add 300 feet of line from the box that's down at the pole, literally 300 feet away. So when the governor made the announcement back in February about that he was pushing the broadband thing, I actually used that, and my son was at UConn virtually, obviously, and said, well, we got to fix it. So Charter stepped up and did it. It took them a few months, but we got it done.
Were you charged for them doing it?
I was not. I was charged just for the normal hookup fee. So now that may have been because the line actually goes by my house. It's just that the box they want to hook into wasn't at the pole at my end of my driveway. It was 3 poles down.
So one of the things about broadband infrastructure, broadband in terms of this American Rescue Plan is it's for unserved and underserved people, and it's a certain amount of, and it's MBPS, something like that, and it's a certain speed that you that has to be provided as part of this, and a certain speed in download and a lesser speed in upload. So I'm trying to get a sense of what the, how extensive this problem is in town. And also I've reached out to Spectrum because I was sent an email a while back where I think they wanted to capitalize on this, and it was talking about underserved and unserved people. So I want to see, I'm investigating to see what that really means. And, you know, I am offended at the thought of paying a company for service, for them to build infrastructure or whatever for services they should be providing to everybody, and they're making money off of it. But I want to find out what it is they have. It sounds like they were already going in this direction in some way because they knew this was coming. And I just don't want us to be charged inordinately for something like that. But I need to understand the extent of the issue first. So I thought Spectrum, when all is said and done, I was trying to figure out how to do that. And Spectrum should be able to tell me where they are providing service in the town and where they are not, so that we can see how big that problem is. So that's one of the areas in the American Rescue Plan that is very definite that that's where money should be going. Another
Can I talk
one.
on that a minute?
Sure,
please,
Butch.
Woodson?
Hi. Yeah.
Go ahead, Butch.
Okay, the last I know, and this is it's old thing, that they went through Ashford with the promise of going up the streets later on. Well, they never did go up the streets to the later on.
Right.
And maybe if you paid for it, it got done. And maybe if there was enough homes on the street to do it, okay, make it worth their while. As far as I know, there's a lot of people that cannot get our, TV service, which we're talking to be able to convert it over to use the equipment that is associated with this. So
Yeah.
right now, I don't believe, and right now, I would think the person that might be able to answer that would be Ralph Fletcher.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Butch.
You're welcome. That's what
Yeah.
happens when you got an old timer on the line, okay?
Hey, I'm starting to feel like an old timer.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are.
Thanks a lot.
Nice.
I
yeah,
say
let's see.
that into being proud, okay?
Okay, me too. All right, and then let's see, it was yeah. Reliably meet or exceed symmetrical 100 Mbps download speed and upload speeds of whatever, 25, something like that. So that was one area. Another area is are things like HVAC systems, because again, that's about purifying the air. I do have a concern about that. I will tell you that I have somebody coming in, a company coming in on tomorrow morning early to, pardon me, the dog does this every time. People, give me that. This is it. This is his 6-foot snake. And now he's just gonna watch and pant while I put it over here. Okay, thank you. No, go away. I have a company coming in to walk through all 4 of what I would call our primary buildings, excluding the school. They already have their own thing. But through town office building, Knowlton, the senior center, and senior housing, to look at the air quality, and also if there are any inefficiencies in these buildings that should be corrected over time. So what he's going to do is come out and kind of look at, get a feel for how big these buildings are. He's going to send me a quote for doing an assessment of the buildings, and I want a separate one for a separate quote for each building, so that we can look at whether or not there are some things we really need to be doing there that we haven't considered just because we've never had money. Excuse me.
Jasper, what about the town garage?
Town garage in terms of HVAC is not necessarily an issue.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But thank you. What I did do is I invited Joe to come along if he wants to, Joe Kalinowski.
Yeah,
he's
he's a good
actually,
man to take with you.
sorry, sir.
He's a good man to take with you.
Oh yeah, he's one of my most reliable, believe me.
Okay.
So everything that has to do with the buildings, I go through, work with him on.
Okay, great.
So anyway, I'm doing that on Friday.
Catherine, can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
Thank you. Just so the board understands, the group that Catherine's going to meet with on Friday, they're just, all they're doing is looking at the scope, and they're going to give an idea to her what it would cost for them to analyze and come up with, if necessary, any sort of plan.
Right.
They would not be doing the work or anything like that. They're just an assessment, and they're an engineering firm to design how, if needed, any of these buildings would be updated. And then once that's done, then we would be talking about how to go out and put some of these things to bid. So this isn't to do any work. It's just to look
Right.
at if there is something we can do.
Well said. Also, I have an aversion to having a company with a kind of a dog in the hunt in terms of getting the business, do the assessment. I would rather that it's done independently, and then we, again, put it out to bid. But that's just one of the areas so that we can have an idea of the scope of the issue. And also there might be some low-hanging fruit there that can be taken care of inexpensively. And, again, with a plan, it'll be a good way to assess everything. Another thing that we've looked at, or we're looking at, is technology to enable hybrid meetings. Although tonight's meeting is not indicative of what I've seen with a number of the meetings, but it appears that we tend to have more participation on some of the Zoom meetings than we've had in-person meetings. We want to be able to do both. And because there are certainly people who are concerned about coming out and being in face-to-face meetings. Also, they tend to be a little more efficient. I know I have a meeting that I would be going to over in another town, in a garage, a municipal garage for Mid-Nerock. They rotate the meeting, and that's one that Chuck Atkins, he's our chair for the Mid-Nerock consortium, if you will. And even he was saying, driving through the snow to go over to a meeting in a garage, they have a little conference room, I guess. He'd rather do that one through something like Zoom. And I certainly have multiple meetings some nights that I have to go to. Anyway, that's just from my perspective, if you will. So I've had conversations with Erica Wazinski over in Wellington about what she's put up for hybrids, and they have a different setup than us, but I'm looking to be able to enable it in a number of our conference rooms and buildings. And then first and foremost, actually, installation of safeguards to aid in reopening of town facilities. We can't forget, some people, we actually had someone the other day tell our town clerk that COVID was over. I'm not kidding. And the person was like, COVID is over, kind of thing. I get reports every week from Eastern Highlands, and Eastern Highlands is accessing the same system that the entire state is using. And our vaccination rate is 54%.
Wow.
And Windham County has the worst vaccination rate in the entire state.
Oh.
Okay, so again, COVID is not over. There are variants, that are coming along, and I guess pretty virulent. So one thing we can't forget, and is part of this American Rescue Plan, is ensuring that we're set up in a way to be able to handle this. And we've done a number of workarounds. I wasn't there for the beginning of it, other than sitting on the Board of Selectmen, but Ralph was really leading the charge in terms of what we were doing and what we had to shut down and how we needed to do it. I can tell you that we had a period of time, apparently, where some people who work for the town couldn't access the systems from home. Linda Gagney has DSL, and she is our tax collector, and she cannot access the system from home. So that's a broadband issue, but it was also, some didn't have a laptop to be able to do it, and you can't use your own personal laptop. Just as an aside, Erica Wazinski is looking at, she'd already started it, replacing the desktops for her employees with laptops with docking stations. Just like when I was, in the public, the commercial sector, or corporate world, I used to have exactly that set up, and we took it home, our laptop home every night. But everything you had was on your laptop or online. And it made it so that I could work from home in the case of an emergency, which is exactly what happened with all of us. We all had them at home, and they said, don't come into the office again while COVID's going on. So I'm anticipating that in all likelihood, we're going to have another wave at some point, or something else is going to happen, and we need to make sure that we're set up for it.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Who might,
You said,
Go ahead, Valerie.
you said that in order to be able to work from home or at your office, you need a laptop with a dock-in station?
I cannot hear you. You need, if you can, face the
yeah.
machine.
Okay. You said that to be able to work from home or at your office, you need a laptop with a dock-in station.
It's docking.
What?
D-O-C-K,
Like a boat,
D-O-C-K-I-N-G. What we have now is, for example, I have a laptop to be able to do that, but it's not a docking station. It's just a laptop. So I can't access what's on my hard drive, for example, at work.
But the point is that in order to be ready for a problem, people can't use their own computer. They have to have a special computer to do their work from home.
Yes, it's not a special computer, but it has to be one that is from the town.
Okay,
It's FOI. It's, you know, they shouldn't be doing any work for the town or accessing things for the town on their own personal laptop.
okay, all right,
That's actually, companies are the same way.
sure.
Okay.
All right, and I don't want to go too far into it. I just wanted to give you a sense of what Erica brought up. I hadn't thought about, but what it did happen is I realized, I found out that Linda Gagne has such unreliable service at her home that she can't access what she needs to. So I'm going to take you back a little bit to broadband. Another situation that we have is that the senior center has DSL. And well, actually they have Charter for TV that apparently ASCO is paying for, which makes no sense. But they have, the town has, I think it's Frontier DSL. And I'll give you an example of the problem. Wi-Fi there doesn't work very well. So we wanted to have some tax people come in and assist one-on-one our seniors with their taxes, any senior that needed tax help. And they've done that in the past. And I think it's a kind of a volunteer thing. But anyway, the tax consultants cannot access the system that they have to access in order to help these people because the Wi-Fi at the senior center is so weak. So that's an area I would also look at. We also have a problem with our in our Parks and Recs department downstairs. Sherry York cannot actually use her phone, her cell phone, or access anything like that to take a call or whatever in her office for whatever reason. And we think that's how we're set up with our server room down on the level. But there are a number of things that are related to broadband that may be able to be addressed with these funds. And there are other things that the American Rescue Plan brings out. It talks about mental health. There, you know, how do we restore, you know, people, everybody has been affected one way or another by COVID. You know, people have had to work from home. They've been in isolation. Our seniors have been affected. Our children have been affected. You know, families have been affected. And people have gotten so accustomed to being super protective and working kind of on their own instead of in groups the same way that they did before. So the stresses have been pretty hard on a number of people. And so that's one of the other areas they talk about is mental health. And, you know, what can we do? And that's everything from counseling services and support services to recreation, parks and recreation. So I know that we wanted to get our pickleball court
Yay.
resurfaced. It's $15,000.
Yay.
It ain't that much, but you know, it's a lot when you don't have money, clearly. But that's something that may fall under this, is to get that done, which takes the burden off of our our CNR and taxpayers. So again, these are some of the areas. I'm going to work with Bill Folletti on air quality and ventilation issues, because I know he, in working with the state, has some knowledge of that. So he and I are going to kind of team up to look at those things together. I want his expertise when we look at what the independent company comes up with in terms of what we need. I also have bear with me, I'm trying to remember, Nutmeg Electrical coming in. They handle our HVAC in the town office building, and they're coming in on Monday to go through the building, because I can see that we have something that looks like it looks like black mold on the ventilation, on the vents that are in the town clerk's office. We also have a humidity issue that in the downstairs vault that apparently has been an issue for some time, and just nobody addressed it. So I have them coming in to take a look at it, and they apparently they haven't serviced that in quite a while, like maybe since the beginning. So 15 years or so. So there's some of the areas that I'm looking at. Some of these things may be covered under the definitely that could be covered under this act rescue plan. Okay, so there's a number of nickel and dime kind of things that could be there, but then there are big things when you talk about broadband infrastructure and some of these other things.
All right,
So-
great. Catherine, thank you very much for the update. I think that really gives a great overview to the folks that, you know, there's a lot of possibilities, and obviously, you know, 1.2 sounds like a lot of money, and to your point, it can be spent in a heartbeat. So it
Right.
you know, you'll have to, you know, I think, you know, you and Bill and Roger will have a little work in front of you trying to help prioritize for the town what
Right.
direction to go in.
And we want to be really prudent when we do it and informed. Okay.
Catherine, you ready to move on to the
Yes,
next?
I am. Thank you.
All right, the next items, the selectmen request a review and action of senior housing public lighting repairs. My understanding is this has been a problem, not just for this selectman, but previous as well. We've been sort of battling this for a while, but Catherine has decided, and I think rightly so, to try to get this finally dealt with. So Catherine, can you give us an overview?
Yeah, I hadn't really heard all that much about this until I went over to senior housing for a meeting with the people who live there. And the first things out of their mouth was, please fix the lighting. It's so dim we can't see in the parking lot. You know, it's a safety issue. And then I heard the same thing from the senior center director. And then I found out that in the past, they have, the town has gone in, but I guess we picked really cheap lighting, and it's never really worked well. And now it's really not working well. So we also had an issue with someone knocked over the pole, the lighting pole that's at the senior center. And so that's down and it's gone. So we're trying to open things up, and the seniors definitely need the people who are, you know, live there and go to the senior center. We need to have adequate lighting there, plus anybody who parks at the park. I mean, literally, it's not designed well at all. So we went out and got an estimate, talked to Eversource as well, because it was supposedly this was done through some of the lighting or whatever was done through a I don't know, a kind of a energy efficiency thing that I think Susan Eastwood was involved with it and some others. And There was work that supposedly was supposed to be done afterwards. No one ever followed up on it. And in reality, that ship has sailed. But we have a definite safety issue. We have had people fall. And so the Board of Selectmen, I got an estimate for basically for $18,000. The Board of Selectmen were unanimous in their support for this. They approved it on last Monday. And Paul, I think you may have been at the meeting.
It was, yep.
Yeah. And, you know, this is not a small problem. This is quite a significant issue. It is a definite safety issue. So I would like to request from the Board of Finance, $18,000. The Board of Selectmen would like to request it. We looked at whether or not we thought that we would have 18,000 or so left over in the town budget. We don't anticipate that we will at this point. And we need to get this addressed. The estimate has a life, you know, it's got it's not in depth, you know, it's not forever. And I'd like to see if we can, if you would consider taking money from the undesignated fund for this, I'm going to call it a project. It's 17 lights and it's to replace them with LED lighting. And the way that I'm going to do an illustration, I did this for the Board of Selectmen. Okay, today we have these really antique-y looking lights and the poles and everything. The poles are fine. The bases appear to be fine. There may be some work on a couple of them that needs to be done. But up on top, you have this, what looks like old-fashioned lighting. Well, it doesn't work. Replacing the lighting within them is difficult. So what's really needed is, what's the word? Anti-light pollution kind of lighting. When you go to put in new lighting now, that's one of the rules. And so they would be like this. The light would shine into the parking area. It's not out here, not over into the park per se, right where it's supposed to shine, which is where people are parking and walking. There are smaller lights that are over at senior housing that look like the other ones, but they're part of this whole package. And also the light pole that was knocked down over at the senior center it was right out at the end of the sidewalk in the senior center going towards the little parking lot. And that one would have two lights coming off the top. And it'd be 15 feet high so that trucks and the other things can get in there. So again, the total is estimated at 18,000. And I would like you to consider helping us move forward with this. It should be done as soon as possible because now we're starting to open up to have events over at the senior center in particular.
Thanks, Ted. Does
Can
anybody?
I add something into this, please?
Go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
Bud.
Years back, we had a problem generated from, I think, whoever was the head of the senior housing. It seems like that there's two lights that are on the wrong person's bill. Okay?
Oh.
Some of the lights, I believe, come out of the senior housing and some come out of the senior center. And the other problem I have is with the gazebo there we have in there, is that it isn't adequately supplied with electricity.
Yes.
Because what happens is if they plug in too many units into the electrical outlet there, it trips the breaker inside of the senior center. And if there's nobody from the senior center there, there's nobody to go in. Or if they don't have a key to the cabinet that the lighting is coming out of, you can't turn it back on. So what I would suggest is that we look into that and add it to what you're talking about.
Well, I don't know.
I might be 100% wrong. It might have been 6, but not. I don't ever remember it being brought to the Board of Finance, but the problem was brought to the Board of Finance many years ago. Okay.
Chuck, if I could respond to that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Butch, thank you very much. I wasn't aware of those issues. No one has mentioned
Well,
them to
nobody
me.
is because the lights work. Okay. It's just that one building is paying more for lighting than the other. It should be on somebody else's bill.
All right,
And if
I'll
we're
take,
gonna do a major change, this is the time to do it. And then to get to the gazebo, it's gonna be a little bit on the expensive side, so you gotta dig everything up from the senior center. From the senior center out to the gazebo and put another circuit there. But I don't think you can do it, is if it's a 15 amp service and you want to go to 20 at that distance, you're going to have probably change the size of the wire in order to do it. But I would like that added in there, is to look into if that's still a problem, okay?
actually, what I'd like to do, is, the lighting issue and the cost for it and the estimate that we have for it. I'd like to treat that as one issue. These other ones I'll investigate, and we will find a way to address them. If in fact there's
Good.
still a problem, I will look at how we can address them in next year's budget, if at all possible. I will keep you informed. I will actually let you know what the true story is at this point in time.
Yeah, right. Because I don't know, I don't believe anything's been corrected, but I don't know that, okay?
Right, and that's what I'm gonna check out, Butch, and
Yeah.
I'll report back on that to this board so that you're aware.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
what we're
Butch.
trying, one of the things that I'm trying to do is, there are some things that, in terms of maintenance, for whatever reason, I'm sure it was financial. There were some kind of quick fixes that might have been a little penny wise and pound foolish. Just like we have a problem with the fascia coming into the lower level of the town office building, and it's been a problem, it's been falling apart for years. Well, with that one, we put that into our budget for next year to get that fixed. Unfortunately, we can't get that fixed until probably towards late fall, because we have a turtle that laid her eggs in there. She's a woodland turtle. And in fact, someone took a picture, Karen Zulik took a picture of that turtle in the entrance, up in the, on the walkway right up to the town office building, the front door. It was up on the steps. I mean, it was above the steps. So
I don't know how a turtle learned to crawl upstairs, but she must be big enough to go between the two and pull herself up. That'd
Hey,
be interesting to see.
she's an Ashford turtle.
Yeah.
And they're just, we're all tough. They're just.
No, it's a handicap
like-
ramp.
Yeah.
Handicap ramp.
Yeah.
Their
Oh, the
gestation
handicap,
period.
okay, yeah, you're right.
The incubation period for the eggs is like 80 or 96 days. It's a long time. So we're just being mindful of that. We also have another one down at the transfer station. They're woodland turtles. There's a lot of turtles out right now. They're all laying eggs.
So Butch, thanks for your question. Does
Yep.
anybody else have any questions for Catherine? And if so, please ask. And if those get resolved, I'm wondering if someone would be willing to make a motion to move forward with this.
Well, I guess it's a question, Chuck and Catherine, is if the senior senior housing knew about the problem. I know there's a problem.
They've been complaining. They've been
Yeah,
complaining for
and
years.
Right, and that's where I'm going with it, Catherine, is, we just had a budget cycle. It wasn't brought up then. I'm not opposed to the project. It needs to be done. I get to go pick them up when they fall down. But
Yeah.
it just kind of concerns me or bothers me that nobody thought it was important enough in the budget cycle to bring it up.
Had I known,
And
I would have brought it up.
There was a lot of stuff going on. I guess I'm kind of pointing more at the senior housing people than the selectman's office. in
I
this.
think that they did approach previous first selectmen. I don't think
Okay.
it went anywhere.
All right. That's fair,
And
'cause there
for
was a lot of
whatever
stuff
reason,
going
I'm
on
sure
during
there were good reasons. I think also, certainly with at least one of the previous selectmen, there was a decision to do something different with the lights. They did it and it didn't
Yeah,
work.
I actually seem to recall there was a discussion at a selectmen's meeting a couple years ago about them.
Yeah.
So, and it just never went
Yeah.
anywhere, I think.
Yeah, and you know, as I've been going along, I've been learning.
Right.
You start to hear it.
You
in
know, from
tidbits.
a taxpayer thing side, I'm not a fan of coming to or somebody going to the board for something every time they want something done. Projects like this should come up at the appropriate time.
Right,
you
and
know,
if you recall, I'm sure you sat in a lot of meetings, Board of Finance meetings where I was the chair. I
Right.
felt the same way.
Yeah, and that's so I'm just kind of wondering like why. And like I said, I know the situation over there. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thank
you can, Paul, you can point to that. The reality is I found out and I'm letting you know.
Right.
And
Well, no, now we're
trying to
doing
address
something
it.
about so we're going in the right direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other thing I would also say is I think we as a town, and I mean all the extended arms of this town, including the senior housing, are not as familiar with how to interact with the 5-year capital improvement committee. I think that's still a learning curve and we've had to shut people down before who, just think you can do this. And I think this is something that really needs to be addressed. I think it's needed to be addressed for a while. And I think we've been sort of slightly kicking the can down the road and putting on a few Band-Aids and hoping it would go
Exactly.
away. And, the point with this particular one is I think we're actually seriously addressing it using quality equipment, stuff that's repairable, that's made by, known entities that, stand by their product. I think we're getting a really good upgrade going to the LED, yada, yada, yada. To your point, Paul, though, I do agree. It should go through the capital committee, but I think we have a bunch of people that don't exactly know that that's how
Right.
it's supposed to be done.
All right.
And so I think that's a
And-
leadership thing where I believe we now have basically in place enough people that are beginning to be familiar and also encouraging departments to go through the proper channels. So I agree with you. This absolutely should have been addressed at the Capitol.
Right.
And we would have approved it. I know we would have.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably would have. And just as an aside, remember, I'm the chair of the Capital Improvement Committee.
Right.
And I didn't know.
Right.
And so I will tell you this, when I did talk with the people at senior housing, it was a whole group of people. I sat in on two of their they have like almost, it wasn't an executive committee, but they have these meetings periodically. And they were delighted to have the first selectman there. That hasn't happened in the past. I also went to attended the executive committee meeting for ASCO, where this was again brought up. So, and they were delighted to have a first selectman there. So I really think that over the years, there hasn't been that kind of direct communication. So I took down all of their concerns. And, we're whittling away at them. There are some that we can take care of pretty quickly. And there are other ones that just like Chuck said, there were kind of Band-Aid solutions and kicking some of the cans down the road. And, finally push comes to shove and you've got to do something. And I would like to make sure that we're taking, good care of, the primary issues in these buildings. And lighting is definitely one for that one.
Does anybody else have any questions on this particular request? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve that the selectmen move forward with senior housing public lighting repairs and that those monies would come from the undesignated fund? Jesse, what do you think?
I kind of agree with Paul quite a bit that it should have been brought up. But it is a concern now, so kind of like impartial on it, but once again, I'd rather stuff like this get brought up and go through the capital improvement process. And the only
I think
question
we all agree.
The only
I do
question
too,
I
but-
did have is Catherine was mentioning about the playground part of the park. And I wasn't sure if I remember a light being that far over there, if the existing lights would light that up, or if that would require like a whole nother
You're
light
talking,
pole.
you mentioned something about,
The
that I mentioned
playground
something
part?
about a where?
Yeah. You said the playground?
No,
No,
Oh, I thought you mentioned that in the very beginning,
no.
that, okay, so
No,
it's just
these are
strictly
seven-
the,
These are all of the lights that are along, these are all of the lights that are, that go around Pompey Hollow Park, all of the roadway, the parking lots there, and they go right out to, along the walk and out to Route 44.
So
okay,
you're just
There are
replacing,
17 lights.
it's just replacing what's there right now.
The
There's
heads.
no- Yeah,
It's
just
the
the head.
heads.
And the one pole that somebody knocked over.
Right.
Yeah, and the pole is somebody knocked over.
The other thing I would add is I do think, one of the things that was really encouraging to me was that some of the work that needs to be done is going to be done by our town
In town.
Local.
local people, but also the town road crew folks will also be helping, using the man lift. I mean, everybody's worked really hard to keep costs absolutely as tight as possible. So working with the town's man lift, they're also going to help set the pole, do the digging, the concrete, so we're working with our folks to really try to make this as reasonable as possible. And I think everybody's recognizing that it's a pretty pressing need.
I have one other question. If the estimate or the cost exceeds the estimate, what happens?
It's on, first of all, I had them do a very, what's the word I want to use?
Well, I get,
They
yeah,
did a
I'm sure-
very, they checked everything. It was Alex Castillo.
right. No, I'm just
Okay.
saying, I mean, what if they run, I don't expect anything. This is more for me for like procedural. If something weird happens and they have a bigger problem, we're taking money out of the undesignated fund. So what happens if you spend the 18,000 and it comes back and then you need another 3 to finish the project? How does that work? Does it
We
come
look-
back here?
Well, first of all, I don't come running, you may
No,
have
no,
done
no,
this,
no.
but I have- No, I just, let me finish
asking.
talking. Let me finish talking, please. Okay. I don't come running to you asking for money if it's not for something important. And this is the first time I've come and done that. If it goes over 3,000, maybe we can absorb that with whatever we may have left over in our budget. Maybe Public Works can absorb that. Unlikely, but we'll see. The first place I looked was, do we think we'll have enough left over to address this? And at this point in time, I don't think so. I don't want to wait too much longer. They've had this for a problem all through the winter when they were walking out there in the snow, et cetera, and they've had it for years. And it's unfortunate that I didn't know about it because I don't hang out there. I didn't before. And I'm surprised that none of you knew anything about it. Because the seniors apparently have been complaining, because the seniors have been complaining and concerned for some time. And the only time I heard about it is when I met with them in March or April.
Yep.
Well, it kind of sounds like whoever they were complaining to wasn't communicating it to the appropriate.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, that wasn't on my watch. This is my
Right.
watch.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and the whole business about coming to you
No,
this
no,
way instead, no, because I've heard 2 of you comment about it. Okay, you need to understand that's not how I operate, and I'd be surprised that you thought it was.
Okay. I got a quick question when you guys are, I can talk, okay?
Go ahead, Butch.
Okay. You said $18,500 or something? Is
No,
that-
18,000.
Okay, 18,000. So that means we have $1,999 that we still could approve. 'Cause
Correct.
it don't need a 20. Don't if it goes over 20,000, then we have to go to a town meeting. Okay, so we don't have to do that. Maybe what we should make is the thing up to 19,500 or something. Okay.
I think we're
I
really,
don't-
Butch, I think we're really comfortable at the 18.
Yeah.
It has a little space in it.
I built the contingency in there.
Oh, okay. Well, that answers my question. Okay,
All right.
that's what I'm trying to do is build.
Not a big contingency, but enough that
No,
if
no,
they hit
no.
an
I'm
unexpected
talking.
thing.
I'm talking 10% because usually that's
Yep.
what you try to do when you bid something to have a 10%.
Yep.
Oh, cost override or whatever you want to call it. Okay, but if you already did it, forget what I asked. Okay.
Yeah, I already did that. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it. It was, it's a normal way to operate,
Yeah, right. Exactly. You give
'Cause
them
I wish-
a
because
little
I
bit of
wouldn't
extra
want to come
money.
back twice, believe me.
Okay. Well, I'm satisfied.
So I need somebody to make a motion to.
I will.
Thank you, Angie.
Yep.
Second it, Chuck.
Okay, Angie's first. Paul is a second. Any other questions?
I just like to say that, Catherine, I really appreciate all the effort that you did amongst this. And it shows how good local government can become. And I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Angie.
It's the job.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Butcherson?
Roger.
Any, anybody oppose? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I cannot wait to tell the people who live there.
Yeah, tell them to
Yes.
head towards the light.
They will be
Catherine.
delighted. I'll let them
Toward the
know that it
light.
was unanimous. Very much appreciated, and hopefully we won't have to go through this kind of a thing in the future.
Head
Catherine,
towards the
thank
light.
you very much.
Catherine, next time you meet with them people, tell them to come over and talk to us. That's what they don't do, okay?
Yep.
They
Oh,
need to-
yeah, we noticed that
Uh,
they didn't come to the senior picnic. Only one
Yeah.
did. And we don't know why. So I'm gonna look at how we can bridge to
Yeah,
them.
tell them that it's no problem to come over. Just call Chuck, or don't even call Chuck. Just come, and we
Yep.
can always vote them onto the list, discussion list. Okay.
Yep,
So
Or we could lure
just
them
do
over
that
with a
because that's
buffet.
what they're
That's
not
it.
doing. That there's been problems there that existed for a while before we corrected them, and we never even knew we had them. Okay.
right. They actually do have some infrastructure oriented problems over there. I'm aware of
Yeah.
that. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Chuck, do you need me? You know what? Jesse, I owe you your annual report. I wasn't able to work on it today because I was unloading about 100 bales of hay. So, but you'll have your report tomorrow. So, I think you've received the one from the senior center,
Yeah, it came through as municipal agent.
yes, that's what you wanted.
Yes. I
Municipal
got-
agent for the elderly, right?
Yeah, that's what we were calling it, but they labeled it as municipal agent, so.
I'll have her resubmit that with the correct title. It's municipal agent for the elderly.
Okay, maybe they did that.
Okay.
That's what came through. I was
Are
just,
you missing any others besides by the way, the problem with the Board of Selectmen one was I wasn't the first selectman.
Right.
It's when COVID kicked off. And so we've pulled from every single set of minutes, whatever, to try and give you something comprehensive. And I just haven't had the time to pull it all together. Are you missing any other ones?
yeah, the fire marshal, I talked to the deputy fire marshal today, and he's working on trying to get that put together. And then the fire department,
Okay, so
Yeah.
the fire marshal is the, Mr. Whitehouse is no longer the fire marshal. We have the deputy fire marshal is now the fire marshal.
Oh, okay, I
Okay,
didn't know that.
you'll see that if you look at our board of well, Paul can tell you.
Yeah, I actually talked with with Charlie, the new fire marshal, last night about it, so he should be getting it done pretty quick. And,
And we're delighted, that Charlie took on the role.
and also the situation with the fire department is the new chief was the president at the time for that annual report, so he's in a big learning curve at the moment, trying to catch up. So, because I actually asked Chuck for your email address so they could send it to you. And I've been pressuring them, but I can't put too much pressure on them because they both just jumped into new jobs.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, if you can imagine, taking on the new job and then having to write the report for the previous person.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as you might think. So anyway, so I am working on that. And you said those are the only other ones?
Yep, missing those
missing?
3.
Okay,
All right.
very good.
All right.
If you don't mind, I'd like to sign off.
We're all set, Catherine. Thank you.
I gotta go back down to the barn. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So we kind of jumped so Valerie, that basically was an update for the annual report. So Jesse, if I think we've basically covered that, right?
Yeah, we
Okay.
covered it. Nothing more really, other than I got those 2 reports in, municipal agent for the elderly and the transfer station, and just missing those 3, fire marshal, fire department, and first selectman's update, or annual
Fantastic.
report, excuse me.
Yep. Thank
I'll
you
see
very
the-
much for.
I'll see the fire marshal again in about 35, 40, well, when we're done here. So
Yep.
I'll
Okay.
gently remind him again.
Yeah, I think we'll go through the rest of the meeting pretty quickly. Getting back to new business, letter C, expenditure and revenue reports. We don't have Cheryl here today, but I felt it was really important for you guys to get a look at the new expenditure and revenue reports and what they look like. I'd like to go through these with Cheryl at some point and the board, just because, they're the new format. They're, I think they're pretty comprehensive. I like the way they look. I know Cheryl and Laura have been, really working hard to try to get these things, working the way they need them to, and so that they're reliable the way they'd like them to be. So I just wanted you guys to look at the expenditure revenue report, see how they're laid out. And then next time, hopefully Cheryl can meet with us. In fact, my guess is that we'll probably be doing adjustments for end of the year. So what my hope had been was that we could take a look at this just before the end of the year, which is, fiscal year, which is coming very quickly. And then we, see what kind of adjustments and so forth need to be made. We'll have to, act on those so that we can get everything lined up the way we need to for the auditors and so forth. So anyway, there's not a lot in here that is of concern of mine, but I would like you guys at some point to go through and look at them, see if there's anything that's of concern to you. The reason I don't really want to address it too much is I'm not sure how accurate these are, because I think they've been using 2 systems, the old system, just because they know the old system, and the new system, which they're now starting to rely on and basically, in essence, launch to us. So, when you get a chance, look them over, familiarize yourselves with the layout, and if you have any specific concerns, let me know, or call the finance office and talk to Laura. I think Cheryl may be out for a little while. It was her mom that passed away, and I think she's got some stuff in front of her to deal with. Anybody have any questions about the expenditure and revenue reports? Okay. New business E, update on combined finance office study. John Kopek was not able to join us today. He's the chair of that particular committee. What I would say is I really think that whole thing sort of has been not doing a lot. And I think right at the moment, the right prudent thing to do is wait till the new superintendent is in place, and then maybe we readdress that again, because again, the only way we can have a combined finance office is if the school is on board.
Right.
And so we need to get a feel for where the superintendent's at, what his thinking would be on something like that, before we, basically waste a lot of time. So that would be that update. I started adding second opportunity for public comments just in case.
That was when I used to be the public.
Exactly. I'm assuming that no one wants to speak as public.
No, but I'll make one comment on it. If you
Go ahead,
only have one of those, make it the second one. That way
Okay.
the people, they get a chance to listen to the meeting and then talk about whatever they wanted to bring in. And we can still, if someone wants to put something on and we vote to add it on, we can do it.
Yep, good point.
And instead of having them in both places, but if you want it in both places, I have no fault of you doing it. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. But my only thinking on that is it seems to me that there might be some people that want to join the meeting and say something. They just want to get it off their chest, whatever. And they're not willing to sort of sit through a whole meeting to say it. So I kind of like those people to have an opportunity to sort of say something, whatever they might want to say early on, and then they can
leave it
bail
just the
out.
way it is.
And then,
Just do what we're doing.
yeah, and I also like the idea of them being able to comment after we've had a whole bunch of discussion. So I kind of think I may try to just leave it the way it is.
No, I was just suggesting. I agree with you 100% on, but if you wanted to just cut down on a little time on meetings,
Yep,
that'd
thanks.
be the only thing it would cut out. But
Yep.
I'm all right with it. I just was bringing up a suggestion. That's all.
Thank you. Agenda number 8, agenda items for the July 8th, 2021 regular meeting. I will put that together when it gets there. I am assuming that we'll be maybe doing adjustments. If we aren't doing adjustments, I probably will cancel the meeting unless we need to do something else. The meeting after that one, there is no doubt in my mind that we'll be doing adjustments, but there's a possibility we may need to do them July 8th. So that would be the only thing I would think we'd be dealing with as far as I know at this point.
Okay.
Remarks for the good of the board.
Chuck, just a question. Do you know, I should ask Catherine, is there a timeline for going back to in-person meetings? Or is the goal to do the hybrid first?
Yeah, I think they're going to shoot for hybrid, and which I would really like to go back to meeting in person. I am much more comfortable doing that.
It's good and bad for me because if I travel, then the hybrid would be ideal. I'd rather meet in person, but
right.
Well,
and that's the whole hybrid thing, and I think that's what other towns are doing. I know that Catherine, so me personally, I would like to just meet in person, but I think the general consensus is that we'll probably be doing hybrid, which is going to force me to do hybrid, which probably in the grand scheme is the right thing to do. So that's what we'll end up doing.
I was just wanting to show, so she hasn't there's no date for actual in-person meetings then as of right now.
Not that I'm aware of. My understanding is I think we're waiting for July 20th.
Okay.
There's something that may happen July 20th with the state, but I'm unclear on that. John, do you know of anything?
Yeah, the part of the budget implementer that was passed last week did have rules about hybrid and virtual meetings. that are going to be in effect from July 1 through April of next year, April of 2022. And it continues the ability of municipalities to hold in-person, virtual, or hybrid meetings. The town can choose. However, there are different rules for each one. And a member of any commission can basically require a virtual component. So you can choose to do your commission in person. However, if any of your commissioners say they want to do it virtually, they are allowed to do so, and you must essentially do a hybrid meeting. On the other hand, if you choose to do a virtual meeting like this, and any member of the public makes a written request at least 24 hours ahead of the meeting, you have to provide them a physical space, presumably at town hall, to go to where they can participate in the meeting essentially in real time. So what that would essentially be, you'd essentially set up like a laptop portal or a computer portal at town hall where someone could come and experience the whole thing. So you're basically defaulting all towns and all commissions to hybrid.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Okay.
That sounds prudent.
Yeah, and I don't know, I wasn't closely listening to the expenditures discussion about some of the federal COVID money, but I do know a number of other communities are spending some of that or are planning to spend some of that
Yeah,
money on better
That was
interactive
discussed.
meeting
Yeah.
technology.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Good. All right, John, thank you.
Thank you.
So basically, Paul, you can force our hand.
Well, no, I'm
Just teasing.
no, I don't want to force her hand. I'd rather meet in person. But like I said, one of the perks about the virtual thing or the hybrid thing is that for me, because I have to travel for work, it will allow me to attend the meetings.
Yeah,
So-
I think we're gonna end, I think whether I like it or not, I guess I don't really care, but I think we're gonna do hybrid. And I know that's where the selectmen are kind of at. I think that's sort of where we're gonna land. So.
Well,
you'll
if
be-
I'm home and you're at the building, I'll be at the building too. So.
All right, good. Remarks for the good of the board. The only thing I would say, which I maybe say too many times, but I don't think so. I want to thank all of you for attending and working as hard as you do and donating the time that you do for the betterment of our town. I really, really appreciate what you do. You're all pretty awesome. So thank you. I need somebody to make a motion to adjourn.
Jesse Burnham, so moved.
Second,
Thank you, Angie. All in favor?
All right.
Yes,
Aye.
Butch Simpson.
Thanks, Butch. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good